Thanks a lot for the introduction, and good afternoon to everybody. So now, after some, let's say, bad news, I will try to give some good news, so to understand how easy it could be to decarbonize the building sector. I start with a general overview on the building sector, so you can see it is well known that the energy consumption of buildings is almost 40% of the total energy demand, and the problem is that if you see the future building stocks, we understand that the increase, the growth rate is about 5.5 billion of square meter per year. So in 2050, we will have more than 400 billion square meter of building all around the world. So it's a very huge amount. And then if we look at the share of this amount of building all around the world, we see that nowadays China is in the first place. So is in terms of floor area, the first country with the amount of square meter. At the second place, we find the United States and then all the other countries. But if we look at the future scenario in 2050, we see that India and Africa together, we will have a number of new buildings overcoming the numbers of new building of developed countries. So Africa alone, we will reach 2.5 billion inhabitants, so the population will double. This means that we need to properly address how to design and construct these new buildings, because if we do it in the wrong way, we can't solve the problem. And then about the energy consumption of buildings. So if we look at the increase of the energy consumption between 2010 and 2017, the increase was plus 5%. That is lower than the increase of the floor area that was plus 17%. So it means that new buildings are more efficient than old buildings. But the bad news, if you look at the other graph in the slide, the energy consumption of the building cooling has been growing very steeply and will continue to grow for two reasons. For the climate change, so the temperature are rising, increasing a lot, and also the per capita income is increasing. So people are expecting to have higher comfort condition. So 20 years ago or 30 years ago in Milano, almost nobody had the air conditioning system at home. Nowadays is a must. Everybody wants air conditioning because for 2 months the temperatures are terrible. Look at the future expected energy demand for cooling in India, China, and the rest of the world, including Africa. It's a huge amount. So it's not enough to think about how to reduce heating energy demand, but we have to face also cooling energy demand. Then last but not least, the CO2 emissions. So they are expected to increase about 40% in the building sector. However, we have to take in consideration that embodied emission will be in 2050 more or less the same than operational emission, because the new buildings will be more efficient. So it means that the operational carbon will reduce. So we will have a 50-50 situation. It means that the construction industry is required to radically change its manufacturing structure to decrease the embodied carbon. So what we can do? We have a strategy, and the solution is that pyramid you see in the slide. So we can state that today, putting together the knowledge we have and putting together the technologies we have, is possible to obtain near zero carbon building without many problems, according to this overall strategy. So the ground floor of the pyramid is to maximize the building's energy efficiency first, mainly through passive design strategies and materials. So we have to minimize the amount of thermal energy needed for heating and cooling. The second floor of the pyramid is to adopt high-efficiency technical system and advanced control management strategies. So we have to phase out inefficient fossil fuel boilers and to push the use of heat pumps, the use of district heating and cooling, and so on. Then the top of the pyramid are renewable energies. So we have to maximize on-site or nearby renewable energy production and self-consumption while electrifying the building sector. Because in a building, it's absolutely possible to generate exactly the amount of the energy consumption, also exceed the amount of energy used for heating, cooling, lighting, and all the other appliances in the building. Is feasible. So according to this overall strategy, we defined 8 key policy action to be put in practice as soon as possible. The first one is to establish advanced building energy codes to set minimum energy performance level for existing buildings in developer countries, and we have to define specific policy and action for developing countries, so more related to new constructions. Second is to achieve high efficiency building envelope at negative life cycle cost. So we have to work a lot with industry, and policymakers must develop strategic frameworks to create the proper market condition for low carbon technologies. Then number 3, we have to mandate minimum energy performance standards for heating equipment. So we have absolutely to prevent the expansion of fossil fuel heating and push high efficiency and integrated energy solution. Number 4, for sure, we have to promote low-cost solar technologies such as photovoltaics and renewable district heating and cooling. Number 5, we have to remove regulation and measures obstructing energy self-consumption. So every user must be able to quickly and easily use the energy generated on the roof of the building with renewables, for example. Number 7, that is strictly related to the previous one, to promote affordable energy storage solutions, both thermal and electric, to maximize the local dispatching and management of renewable. I remind that in a building, it's quite easy to store thermal energy. Not necessarily we have to store electricity, because we mainly use thermal energy for heating, cooling, and domestic hot water. Number 7, we need to promote training and capacity building activities for the construction sector to improve the knowledge and the skill. And at the same time, we have to strongly increase the application of climate responsive and integrated building design. Last but not least, we have to promote tailored solutions for developing countries, such as, for example, low-cost solar thermal system for water heating and clean technologies for cooking. So in conclusion, again, I cannot say that is an easy work, but we have the knowledge and we have the technology to reach the goal. So please, let's go home today with the commitment and the promise that we will do our best to go in this direction. Thanks a lot for your attention.